What's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. I am joined by Adam Carlson. What is up, sir? How are you?
Hey, doing okay, staying inside, petting the cat, all the good things.
It's good stuff. I like to hear it. I'm glad to hear that you're healthy. Kyle West is also healthy. He is just working right now, so he'll probably be back next week. He wanted us to let you know, for all the faithfuls that tune in, that he's doing all right. He's just got to go out there and keep Webster City alive. So good for him. Thank you for what you're doing, Kyle. Even though he would probably downplay it, I think he's got a pretty essential job. Everybody's got to fuel up and get some snacks. So we'll see him next week. But I was waiting on somebody to play a prank today. It's April Fool's Day 2020, and I was waiting on it, but it never came. And I think it's just because of this crazy situation that's going on in the world.
The fake Adam Schefter got some Vikings fans today, though, on Twitter.
I didn't see that.
He wrote up a nice fake thing about about Anthony Harris getting an extension, and some people were running with it.
Okay.
Because it's believable enough to be believable.
That's actually really funny. It's not, but it is. I hope that happens, and it looks like that'll be something we can talk about today. It looks like the Vikings are headed in that direction, but got to check that blue check mark. You got to make sure it's really Shefty.
Yeah, take a look at that @ and if it's not right, it's not right at all.
Oh, that's crazy. What's up, Bob? Thanks for joining us, man. If you got anything that you want to talk about, I see 2 other people have joined Bob. If you guys have anything that you want to talk about, comment below, and we will definitely address it. This is a hastily put together show. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but we got some cool things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about, what's up, Andrew? He's a faithful as well. Thanks for tuning in. There's a lot of talk about us trying to go after Trent Williams, and I'm not sure that I want the Vikings to do that. I'm not sure how they would pull that off without getting rid of Riley Reiff. And it's a big question mark. What do you think about that, Adam? Would you be happy if the Vikings, for a reasonable price or reasonable deal, got a hold of Trent Williams?
This is the 3rd show in a row where we talked about this. And every time I've talked about how I have not given up on Riley Reiff. I don't think giving up the draft capital for a player of his age is really that smart. I don't think that the Vikings are going to be willing to pay what Trent Williams wants per year for an annual salary. It's just, sure, if there was no salary cap and we didn't have to worry about players declining after a while, all right, sure, why not? But this is one of those Madden trade situations that people love, but isn't very realistic in real life.
I try to stay as up to date as I can personally on Twitter, and I follow a lot of Viking pages, a lot of good Viking writers out there, beat writers, guys like Adam as well from the Viking Age and some of his colleagues. But I'm with you, man. I just don't see this happening. I know a lot of people are saying, well, let's trade Reiff or let's cut him, let's do this. But the biggest thing for me is anybody that's taken a year off from football, when we take a look back in history, have they came back to be as good as or better than their former selves? And most of the time, the majority is no. And I don't know. And I'm going to put this up because Bob just commented, this is right. I think if you're going to address something, find some depth at guard, maybe give Elflein one more shot. I don't think he's completely ruined his chances to stay on the team or at least get a shot, but he wasn't good last year. He was the weak link.
Nope.
But I'm with you, man. I don't see all the hate for Riley Reiff. Maybe the price tag isn't what we like, but we're not the GMs. We're not paying him. He was a serviceable left tackle.
Absolutely. And he has had no help on the left side of the offensive line. It's just been brutal. The times that you can watch games and just see him get frustrated about players going on the inside of him when he has to cover the outside, it's just tough.
Andrew makes a good point, throwing Reiff and a high round draft choice. I don't think that's worth it either, especially for the age. That's one of the things that leaves questions with me. But I don't know, man. I think part of the reason, too, and what you were alluding to is, and what Bob said is, a better left guard will help Reiff. Maybe that's why the production isn't as good as what it should have been last year. That whole left side, starting at Bradbury and going over, was not up to snuff last year. We give Bradbury a pass. We've talked about that in recent weeks too, but I don't think that's a trade that the Vikings are going to make unless there's definitely a major come down in the price, because that was the other thing. Not only the Redskins do him dirty as far as the medical side of everything, but he's going to ask for a lot of money. And I'm not sure it's going to be worse than that. So Vikings don't have the money to spend anyways. But I saw that on Twitter. Wanted to address it one more time. If you guys want to talk about the offensive line, let's look at the draft. Let's look at what they did at right tackle and see if they can do it on the opposite side and do it again. Because I like our right tackle. So if we can figure it out on the other side, that'd be great.
Yeah, I really thought that would be a longer project over there at right tackle, but they were able to hop in there and get him on the field, and he played at a high level, continued to play at a pretty high level. And it didn't hurt that they had a experienced right guard at the time, which now they don't have either. So that opens up another big question mark.
This is another great thing that I wanted to talk about. I don't think this is a possibility, but now that we're talking about things that we'll kind of skim over just for a second, one of your counterparts of the Viking games asked, should the Vikings take a chance on Jameis Winston? I don't know that this is such an anomaly in the NFL. These guys that, I mean, we'll address the negative side first. He had a horrible amount of interceptions, like almost record-breaking, I believe.
But let's stop for a second. I do want to clarify something, though. Mm-hmm. I believe that article is from fansided.com, not Viking Agent, just posted to our socials, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the top. Yes, this is a fan-sided article, but
because we didn't write that. Okay. We didn't write that one.
Perfect.
That's our boss is spreading that one.
It says the Minnesota Vikings would be hurting pretty badly if Kirk Cousins went down, so would they take a chance on Jameis Winston? My question to flip that around is, would Jameis Winston take enough of a pay cut after leading the league last year in touchdowns and yardage to say, nah, I'm cool to sit back and hold a clipboard? Now, do I think that that's what he should do? Yeah, probably, because he's too much of a risk taker, and God, he turns the ball over a lot. But the guy's got
would he go to a place where he can't even compete to start?
Because if he comes to Minnesota, there's no way he's competing for the starting job. That's not going to happen. So,
and they're not going to pay him big backup money. That's not happening.
As we've seen with their current situation, they're not going to spend a lot for the backup. So, oh, here you go. Hawkeye. We can talk about Drew Samia in a minute. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, I don't think the Vikings are going to take a chance on Jameis Winston. The money is always going to be the biggest thing for this year and the capital, but I don't know. I would love to see a resurgence, maybe for him to get another shot, kind of like Tannehill got in Tennessee last year. Maybe he could go somewhere else where there's an iffy starter, but this is a quarterback-heavy draft as well. There's going to be 3 or 4 taken in the first round, and they're going to give these guys shots. I think he could do well in a place like Denver or somewhere like that. Maybe he could beat out one of the guys, but they want to go forward with these younger guys because they're cheap. So I don't think the Vikings are going to take a chance on him, but I wanted to hit that up because I saw that on here and I thought that was an interesting take.
Oh, it's definitely interesting, but the more you dissect it, the more you see how it's just a horrible fit. Because not only is the Vikings offense built on not turning the ball over and field position and everything like that, he would give Mike Zimmer a heart attack.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't last very long. I can see him and Bruce Arians being in the same neighborhood of temperament for coaches, so they're probably very close. Here's another one to talk about. Oh, we'll go back to that. Let's talk about Drew Samia here because Bob brought it up. Adam knows a little bit more about him than I do, but I see him as a project going in. This would be, what, year 2 for him?
Yeah.
He drafted last year? Yeah. I don't know. He may get a shot because we haven't brought Klein back. And I know that there was all that talk about maybe turning Anthony Harrison to Joe Thuney, which that looks more and more like it's not going to happen. So he might get a shot.
I've been going over this in my head multiple times. And I think the big question mark here is Rashad Hill.
Yeah, is he going to
Rashad Hill can play that swing backup tackle real well. But would they consider moving him into right guard?
Ooh.
I've been kind of pondering that in my head a little bit because otherwise, being able to bring him back on a deal worth less than $1 million, they know that he's got starting experience. He's really dirt cheap. I think that would be smart to at least insert him into the conversation. Even if they've got a room full of people that are inexperienced or just a lot of people fighting for one position. It's just a situation where they got to get a body in there and have somebody win it and feel pretty confident with them. And they seem to really like Rashad Hill, even though they didn't give him a big payday. And sure, massive thanks to Hill for not holding out for a bigger deal because he could have. He absolutely could have gotten a bigger deal somewhere else.
I think so.
But yeah, I don't know those guard positions because I don't think Garrett Bradbury's moving. I think they're going to give him another year there. I hope that he kind of grows and develops along the way. But I do expect to see some competition open up at guard unless they are just so blinded with Pat Elflein that they really strongly believe. And I've seen teams get that attached to a player and not be willing to give them up or move them or pull them out of a starting lineup, and it hurts a team bad.
I don't think they'll be that. I think I've heard Zimmer at least once last year talking about not being happy with Pat Elflein, but he'll get another chance. I'm totally with you on the Bradbury stuff. What they saw and how giddy they were last year to be like, we haven't seen a center like this in years. To go after him, he's not going. I'm willing to say he's even got this year and next year to get his quote unquote shit together at center. The question that I have here, though, because we were talking about this between Adam, Kyle, and myself. With this coronavirus thing going on, like my home state is North Carolina. They're on lockdown for the entire month of April. That's just a precautionary measure. So that leads into May. We'll talk about organized team activities and mini camp and all that stuff. Guys, this is very well. I mean, we're talking about having kind of like the 2011 situation where there was a lockout and it affected all the team activities going forward. I'm of the belief that this is probably going to happen this year, at least for minicamp and OTAs, part of that. There's not going to be a lot of practices, which means a lot of the rookies are going to have to depend on their film study to get there. And to bring this back around, what Adam was saying is, what if you want to take a guy like Rashad Hill, who's a savvy veteran, he's a plug-and-play guy, kind of a swing tackle, backup, whatever, but he needs some reps just to get a feel for the guard position instead of tackle. We might not have that chance this year.
It's true. So, I bet a lot of teams will be doing the virtual meeting rooms for a lot of this. As soon as they're allowed contact and everything, the rookie meetings and all that, I'm betting a ton of that will be done online. And it absolutely should be because, that's a smart thing to do right now.
Yeah, we'll tackle that right now and talk about it just for a minute. Adam and I and Kyle as well, we're all on the boat of, if you don't think this thing is serious, you're just being ignorant to everyone, including yourself. I had a very, very good friend of mine that'll stay unnamed, very close to me, saying that this is all a media ploy and it's all because of the election year coming up, and they're very conservative, so they think it's a slight against Trump. That's another way they kind of use this and the impeachment to say, oh, well, this is just a way for people to attack the presidency and the Republicans. And I'm like, guys, look at the hospitals out there. This is not a joke, especially where I'm at. I'm in Long Island, New York. I'm 70 miles away from the worst cases, the worst numbers in the country. So it's for real, and it's going to show in football. And I was optimistic about 2 weeks ago that maybe the NBA would just set their records in place, and maybe in May and June they'll start the finals with empty arenas. I don't know that that's going to happen now, and we might very well have another 2011 year, like I mentioned earlier, where it's all virtual and there's going to be some sloppy football coming up.
As I've said before on the show, I'm really lucky to be living out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like I can't see my neighbor's house. I can't from where I'm living.
Lucky.
So we still haven't had a confirmed case in our county. But I know that a lot of counties haven't been that lucky. And that a lot of them are really having a lot of troubles. And the more that people just don't do what they could do, which is nothing. They don't got to do anything.
We're pretty good at that.
and just wait for the whole thing to blow over. And yet people are still going on spring break, taking their vacations. I was talking to one friend of mine who works at a location that's in law enforcement. And his friends had booked vacations down to Florida. And they went last week and went on their vacation because they said they've been planning it and they're not missing it. It's like, oh, why?
It's not worth it. I've got one.
Florida will be there after.
Yeah, and spring break will be here, and it'd be one of those years. Maybe think of it as like, oh, cool. Well, we like to play the stock market in this family, and this year wasn't a good year, so we didn't take the big vacation we wanted. We'll try again next year. If we could all think about it that way, it'd be better. I've got one sibling, guys. I have one younger brother, and he means the world to me. He's one of my best friends, if not my best friend on the planet. And he's getting married in July, and that's up in the air right now. I still think that'll be okay. But the bachelor party was supposed to be in 2 weeks from tomorrow. That's not happening. So it sucks. I want him to have a good time. I wanted to throw him a nice going away kind of, hey, man, I'm really happy. Let's go have a weekend of fun. And that's out the door. And when we start thinking about the bigger picture, is it really that big of a deal? No. I got my money back on the Airbnb. So it's like, what are we really missing out on? I know we're all good at sitting at home yapping in front of a computer. We do it all the time. So
right.
I think it's just that thing.
Yeah,
like,
we're going to miss the former Minnesota Vikings players in the WrestleMania. We're going to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be a crowd full, but it's going to be an empty arena, WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar will be there, but Roman Reigns pulls out because you don't want someone with leukemia having a chance of catching that. Or someone that has dealt with leukemia. Because that's just bad all around.
I forget about that till you guys bring it up. That's crazy.
But Major League Baseball, they're not happening right now.
Nope. Opening day was supposed to be last week. That's definitely not going down. I think that's good for baseball if we're going to go off subject a little bit, just because I think they should shorten the season. But there's probably a good chunk of baseball that's going to be missed anyways. At least a quarter, if not a third of the season is going to be gone. So
I don't know if I'm missing it, Bob.
Yeah, I don't. I'll go to a baseball game. I'm not really going to tune in though. I'm not going to sit around and watch. It's like watching golf on television. I'm going to be out in about 20 minutes. Going back down to Viking news, another one here that's really popular, and this is Adam's counterpart, the other Adam of the Viking age. Should the Vikings try to sign cornerback Dre Kirkpatrick from the Cincinnati Bengals, which is cool and funny because we would essentially be doing a cornerback swap with them after they picked up Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes. I'm on the fence about this one because I think he's a little past his prime. He's a little bit older, but when you look at the Vikings depth chart, I mean, we need some help. So
I am 100% for bringing in a veteran cornerback, especially one that's overcome injuries and can help out a team. We saw that with Terrence Newman. I don't know if this is the same kind of like locker room leadership that we saw with Terrence Newman, but Zimmer has praised him for his toughness, his ability to bounce back, and we've seen him take a liking to a lot of players that Minnesota does take a look at. So to me, I think that'd be a great addition to the locker room. It would eliminate the need to draft another corner like in the later to mid rounds.
Right.
And let them focus on some of the other positions and get more bodies in there to take chances on. Because the Vikings do pretty well with those extra picks in rounds 3 to 6-ish on defensive ends, wide receivers, and whatnot. So, yeah, I'd love knocking out some needs. And if they could sign him to a smaller deal, I'm 100% for it.
It'd be cool to have him a little 1 or 2 year prove it. And according to your buddy Adam Patrick over there on the Viking Age here, he was a part of the Bengals staff, Zimmer was, when they drafted Dre Kirkpatrick in 2012. And the Vikings' new defensive backs coach, Durante Jones, was in Cincinnati the last 2 years. So he was a secondary coach in Cincinnati, which is cool. He's 6'2", 190 pounds, so he's got some size, which is nice. Yeah, like you said, he only played, 6 games last year, but the year before he played 13, so here's the stat that I really like here. On the field for 13. He can
fill in when Holton Hill gets suspended. Boom.
Oh, God. Taking all the dark jokes and putting them out there early in this episode. In 2018, he was on the field for 13 of the Bengals matchups, and he allowed his coverage to only haul in 44% of their targets, which was second best in the NFL 2 years ago. I mean, I didn't know these kind of stats on the guy. I just saw the age, and I was like, I'm not sure. But, yeah, when you're looking at it now, we have Mike Hughes and Holton Hill. Those would be the starters, I would assume.
Right now, yeah.
So if Dre Kirkpatrick comes in, assuming he's healthy, probably get a chance to start, if not be assigned to the starting spot immediately. I like it. I think that's good. I think the money's got to be right. It says here during the last 3 seasons, he had cap hits of around $9 million, but based off his age and coming off a knee injury, probably take a discount.
Plus, I don't really know off the top of my head what his guaranteed salary was in Cincinnati that he got paid, and if that would be a contributing factor in what he is looking for in a contract.
Oh,
with
that'd
his
be
new
great.
team.
That'd be great if he could take a very small deal here and he gets money from them. That's right. That's good. Yeah, I like this move. I would think that they're on top of it. They're probably going to wait till the draft, though. I'm telling you, this is a stalemate in the second wave. I mean, guys like Cam Newton are still out there and not being signed. Everson Griffin's still out there with no team. Jadeveon Clowney offered to take a discount today. I say discount in air quotes because a lot of people will be like, that's still a lot of money. But there's some marquee name guys out there, and they still don't have a team yet. So I'd like to see.
Yeah, the word right now is that Griffin is getting shown a lot of interest from Seattle. So
imagine that. Imagine that. Vikings West takes another defensive player. Jesus.
Hey, it's not official yet, but that's the word. But I know I've said this like last week, but I don't know what kind of contract Everson Griffin's looking for that's pricing him out of the market because he's a good pass rusher. Good pass rushers shouldn't sit in free agency this long unless they want a really crazy amount of money.
Right.
And for him, I don't know what kind of number he's seeking, but it's shocking that a lot of these other pass rushers are getting picked off before he is.
It's gonna be sad to see him in a uniform. It's gonna be weird as well, like the Brady thing down in Tampa Bay. It's gonna be weird to see all the I can't imagine Xavier Rhodes in an all-white Colts jersey. You know, that's just gonna be weird to see.
But weirdly, like you say that, and then I picture like Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander looking pretty good for Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, it does. Maybe it's just the uniforms I like. I like those a little bit better. Their helmets are trash, but the uniforms are good. Other news here. Man, I don't want to get into this too much. I want to talk about wide receivers. Vikings not expected to draft Trevon Diggs unless he falls. I'm not sure how that would go down, but recently traded his brother Stephon to the Buffalo Bills. They likely won't be selecting Trevon Diggs in this year's draft. I'm guessing.
I'll say that I've traced this a little bit, and the source is just an opinion. So I'm not taking any stock in this statement at all. I know a lot of people are running with it, and sure, it might make some sense logically that, oh, it's another Diggs. It's another Diggs, you know? But I don't know. I don't think that they'd remove a player from the board just because he's Stephon Diggs' brother. I don't see that.
When he was recently asked about the possibility of the Vikings drafting the younger Diggs in a few weeks, Charles Davis from NFL Network said more than likely he's not under consideration, according to the Pioneer Press's Chris Thomason. God, I wish I didn't talk about that guy on the show. My favorite thing of 2020 so far is that Everson Griffin hung up on him and he decided to tell the whole world about it. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, the more you trace that, the more that you kind of figure out, okay, that source, I don't know. If it's someone that tends to inject a lot of opinion into their pieces, like when Adam Schefter writes something, it's basically fact.
Yeah.
He doesn't include a ton of opinion. It's just what's happening.
That's the other thing.
Some writers don't know how to say, hey, I think that there might be some disconnect between the Vikings and the Diggs family. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those situations where I'm not buying it. If he's the best player on their board and they're up to draft, they're picking him. I just don't see them saying, well, let's take the next guy. I don't see it happening.
This also isn't like an Eli Manning or a Joe Burrow where they're like, I'm not going to play for you. I'm going to go somewhere else. It's not like the number one pick and like, you're going to change my franchise for the next decade. Like a good corner is a good corner, but this is certainly not the kind of leverage you're talking about here. And the other thing too is let's think about another potential Viking that has Minnesota ties that has been said, oh, I don't know if I want to come here. Everybody likes Antoine Winfield Jr. and his dad is not fond of what happened in splitting up and leaving Minnesota. Does that mean that he wouldn't play for the Vikings? I doubt it. I highly doubt that. If he got drafted there, I think he'd be happy to play. They just want to make sure they get taken care of. And I think this team's pretty good about taking care of good players.
Well, Vikings fans just want the connections, I think. Even the Vikings, they don't need Thaddeus Moss. They don't need him. But everybody still wants him.
A big tight end. Like we got 7 tight ends on the roster when the year's over.
I don't get it.
Fantastic. Of course, I joined the Purville podcast. You guys are discussing wrestling. Look, man.
We only talked about wrestling for like a minute. It's
It's
your
former
timing,
Viking
man.
players. I got a great meme the other day too. Shout out to my buddy Mike. He sent it in Snapchat, and it was a McDonald's drive-through, and it had a. I'm only saying this because it's a Shawn Michaels reference, but they had a sign up against the drive-through window that said, "Sorry, we don't have any boy toys in the Happy Meals," and it's just Shawn Michaels, like just
Yep.
like that.
Good
Oh man,
stuff.
the Attitude Era, best era ever in wrestling. I love it. Drug policy won't be a play this year, so Hill is still a risk. Yeah, that's weird that won't go into effect. But I'm hearing. Did you hear that too? That we're gonna do the 17 game season this year. That's going to be in effect, right? That just dropped like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I've heard that, and the playoffs are changing.
Yeah, and I thought if I heard it correctly, it's going to be this season. So that's really weird that they wouldn't do the drug policy until later. I'm not sure why they wouldn't implement it now. You think about guys
And
like
I'm a
Holton
fan of Mike
Hill.
Hughes, but I also can't rely on him to stay on the field for 17 games plus the playoffs.
That's true. I don't know why they wouldn't put that in there, Andrew. That's really weird. They guys like Holton Hill, Josh Gordon is an amazing talent. He has lots of issues that we know about, and these guys aren't going to get a fair shot until they get rid of all the marijuana stuff. So I didn't know that, though. Thank you for bringing that up. So we knocked out Trevon Diggs, the Antoine Winfield stuff. I'm going down the Viking age and looking here. I wanted to get your
we
thoughts,
were talking on Twitter for a little while about why the Vikings needed to draft a wide receiver early. And one of the reasons was by a lot of fans was, well, who's Kirk Cousins going to throw the ball to? He has a Pro Bowl wide receiver. He has a Pro Bowl tight end. He has a Pro Bowl running back that can catch the ball. He's got some reliable targets, even if nobody else is brought in.
It's
He's
true.
got a second-year tight end that's showing some flashes for catching the ball. I mean, sure, yeah, they could use an upgrade at the other wide receiver spot, but it's not like there aren't targets in this Vikings offense. Losing Diggs, yeah, it stinks because he was a good wide receiver and he complemented Adam Thielen well, but it's not the end of the world.
You know, it's funny. I like hearing the positive feedback about that. There are so many people out there that think the Vikings had the worst wide receiver core now that Diggs left. Because they're like, after Adam Thielen, the drop off is so huge. It's like,
and that's true. That is true.
Okay, I could see
but
that.
It's not like the Vikings only have wide receivers to catch the football.
Well, the other thing too is, if this was Tampa Bay's offense or, like the Pittsburgh offense or something that's let's throw the ball everywhere all the time, I could see that. But we're a run first team. If you had that solid number one that's going to draw coverage from the solid number one corner, I've got tight ends that can block. I got tight ends that go over the middle. We have really good slot receivers in this on this team. I'm not downplaying the Diggs trade at all. Diggs leaving does suck and it hurts, but It's not the end of the world. Like you said, it's not going to detriment the team to where, oh my God, we're not going to make the playoffs now, and now we're screwed, and we're going to be a 5-win team. I don't see it being a huge drop off like that. I'm with you though, and I really liked what Chris Sims did the other day. It was a very hot take, but he did his top 5 wide receivers in the draft. I'm not going to pull those up because, number one, I'm not going to get free press, and two, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm lazy. But I think there's going to be 5 or 6 taken in the first round. I think the guys that like Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, they're going to be gone pretty early, right around the 10, 11, 12 spot. I think there's going to be a run too, just me personally, where there's going to be 2 back-to-back, maybe even 3 simultaneously back-to-back-to-back. But the Vikings are in a good spot because all the teams in front of them. Yes, some do need a wide receiver like Oakland, or I think San Francisco might take a wide receiver. But the teams directly in front of them don't need that. And they're going to take corners or safeties or defensive linemen. So they're going to be set up well. And if you miss a guy, there might be 1A and 1B, and we're right back there 2 picks later, or 3 picks later, rather, at 25. Oh, here we go. I like this take. Soon to be Pro Bowl, Chad Beebe. I mean, he's fast as shit. I think he could turn some heads. I don't know if he's going to the Pro Bowl because he's not a household name, because that's going to be a big fan vote and fan majority there. But I like Chad Beebe. I like BC Johnson too. I really like BC Johnson.
I'd like to see each of them take a step this year.
I would too. While we're on the subject of this wide receiver stuff, we will tell you a couple weeks ago, I know Kyle and I were on the train. I'm not sure if Adam was on it too. I think you were. We were talking about Aldrick Robinson and Jarius Wright. The Vikings have been in contact with Jarius Wright, but Twitterland is telling us that they are probably not going to come to a term or a deal. But they did reach out to him, which was really nice. He's getting kind of old, man. I forgot that he was on the team. Like, he was on the team way back when Teddy was drafted before then. So he's been around a minute. But, man, I love that guy, Mr. Third Down. And never forget with Jarius Wright, too, the walk-off touchdown against the Jets and just seeing Everson Griffin just lose his mind. The best post-game interview ever.
Yeah, the Vikings do still have some talent at wide receiver on the roster. A lot of it still has to be explored a little bit, but I think that there are going to be some guys that get drafted and make those other guys push for roster spots. And I don't think it's going to be all doom and gloom. I think it's going to be all right. Of course, I got to try to stay a little bit positive too, because the Vikings' track record for drafting wide receivers early isn't fantastic. But it's all a game of numbers. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, and they've been missing lately. So who knows? Maybe this one will hit the mark.
We're in a good spot because we have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, which is great. But I'm trying to figure out where they're going to go and guessing, because I don't know how much more they're going to spend in free agency. I'm assuming they'll do the second wave of free agency coming up. They'll probably have one more decently big signing, i.e. like Drake or Patrick we were just talking about. But wide receiver is a definite need. Corner is an absolute need. I would not be surprised if that's the very first pick if they take a corner. Christian Fulton is the name that keeps going out there, I believe, around 22. Then I'm looking on the Viking age too. There's a defensive end out of Iowa that everybody likes. I like the fact that Ifeadi Odenigbo is probably going to step in and be the starter. But if you've got a really, really good defensive end there and he's your best player available, they'll pull the trigger on the guy. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
When's the last time we took a defensive end in the first round? Do you remember? I can't remember as of the last 10 years.
Not that I recall.
I can't either. At least that's how long I've been paying attention very closely to the Vikings. I can't think before then. I know 07 was the Adrian Peterson year. Percy Harvin.
I don't think they even used the first rounder in trading for Jared Allen.
I don't think so. Man, so that would be cool. That would be a first and something that hasn't been done in a while. But yeah, draft profile here, AJ Epinesa. I think that's how you say it. Epinesa, yeah. Defensive end out of Iowa. So that would be cool. I know Kyle West would like to do some research on this guy and give us the breakdown. Maybe he can do that next week.
Possibly.
We are in need of pass rushing depth, but I'm not sure.
Hey, a really strong pass rush can help out a young secondary. So, yeah, I mean, anything to help.
That'd be really awesome. Take a year and sit behind Ifeadi. They have a new defensive tackle that's going to be there too. The defensive line is still going to be super strong, which is great. So let's talk about this for a second. The Vikings have reportedly gotten to talk to Anthony Harris about an extension with him. He was going to be used for trade bait, I believe. I don't think they were going to get – what were they asking for, like a second for him?
I'm not sure.
I think the talks on Twitterland were second or a third, which I think he's worth a third round pick, but what team's going to give that up that's in really big need of a safety? But it looks like they're going to try to talk to Anthony Harris for a long-term deal. That's good for both sides because him and Harris and Smith together, easily, in my opinion, the best safety tandem in the NFL. But he wanted that long-term commitment and wanted to feel the love of financial continuity. And, hey, the Vikings took a chance on him. This is where he's been his whole career. He's climbed the ladder like Adam Thielen as an undrafted free agent, so I don't blame him for that. But if they can come up with a long-term deal, that would be great. And then the next person on the list is Dalvin Cook, so that would be one less person we have to worry about.
Absolutely. If they can take that one-year deal they worked out for the tag and expand that into a longer contract, distribute the money well, work with the salary cap, they could even free up more money either this year or down the line to deal with expenses that are going to be happening. I know that when they pushed around Danielle Hunter's contract, they ended up moving $2 million off of his cap this year and moving it to the end of his contract. And although that doesn't sound like much, you could easily offset that by having a contract either made or restructured to be a little bit more front heavy, especially now that they have a little bit more money left, so they can balance things out and not have to push the rock down the hill. Up the hill, push the rock up the hill. There you go.
Yeah, you got it. You're better at the salary cap stuff than I am, so I sit back and learn. I would love to see this guy stay in Minnesota for another 3 or 4 years. I think he's an excellent player. I think he's done nothing but grow. I mean, I know for me, being a fanboy of him, being that I was stationed in Virginia for a while, he is, I think he's University of Virginia or Virginia Tech, one of the two, obviously. But I've sang his praise for the last 3 seasons. Glad that he's gotten a shot. And with the depth there, like Sendejo left, and I mean, God, the secondary is super depleted. I'd love
J-Ron couldn't wait to run away.
Oh, God. Yeah, he talked himself out of a contract with the Vikings, so I don't know. Sharp may be a good pickup. Bob says Tajay Sharp, the wide receiver from the Titans, may be a good pickup. Yeah, I forgot to mention him earlier. I think that would be a great addition.
He seems like such a streaky wide receiver, and there's nothing wrong with a player that can pick it up every once in a while and have some good games, but he's got to not disappear in other games.
I don't like
to be a little bit more consistent.
I don't like the fact that he took Laquan Treadwell and Mike Wallace's old number. I don't like that. I think that he's going to take number 11, which I am not a fan of whatsoever, but maybe he'll turn it around. We'll see.
You never know.
Offensive line, please. You know what, Bob? If we could be like the Miami Dolphins and have like 12 picks for the next 2 drafts and just draft all offensive linemen and get away with it, I would be okay with that. But I don't know what they're going to do. I think that all the prospects that you would want to spend that kind of money and draft capital on, plug in the show title there, I don't think they're going to be worth the picks at 22 and 25. I think it should be a major reach, and it's one of those where you sit back on day 2 and you just hope that somebody falls because they're just not worth that pick that high in the first round. I want it to happen, but I don't think that's going to be where they go in the first round. I'd be very happy if someone fell and we snuck in and figured it out. The question that I have for everybody that's still watching and for Adam is there a player, part 1A and 1B here, is there a player that you think we could double up those 2 picks and jump up to get that's worth it that you want? And do you want that to happen? Would you like to see the Vikings use both of those first rounds and go up and get like a superstar? Or would you be okay with getting 2 starters right away at 22 and 25? I'm on the latter, but I've seen some talk of where the Vikings might be thinking to trade up to get a certain, I don't know, wide receiver or corner.
Yeah, NFL.com recently released an article that stated that 5 teams most likely to trade up in the draft based on their draft capital and needs, and the Minnesota Vikings were on that list, and they were quite high on that list as well. But I don't see them with as many needs as they have putting those together, and especially with the salary cap needs they have. That's another one of the things that people forget about when they talk about trading up in the draft is that you're losing that body that's making so little each year on that rookie salary contract before they really cash in on that first big contract. If you're able to distribute that a little bit better and have those young players at key positions while you're not paying them too much, that can make a salary cap so much easier, especially a first-round pick. And then after that 4th year, Minnesota loves, and I'll underline loves, to have that 5th-year option available.
I was going to talk about that.
To be able to evaluate or to keep a player around and kind of reward them for having a really good first 4 years. They love that 5th-year option. So, yeah, I don't see the Vikings giving up a first-round pick. I could see them maybe using one of those 3rd-rounders or something like that to move up if a player they really like is falling. But I don't see them moving up with either of those first-rounders. I don't see that happening.
I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. Bob, you're absolutely right. Better off staying put. Andrew says keep those picks and fill holes. That's where I'm at with it, but I wanted to bring that up because I know Adam had seen that article and I've heard it as well. And from what I read, it was for a wide receiver. And I personally, I love CeeDee Lamb. My favorite wide receiver in this draft is Jerry Jeudy. I like him a lot. But there's 5 legitimate first-round wide receivers that will absolutely come in. And if they play to their ceiling, they're going to blow the roof off the NFL. They're going to be awesome. I don't think it's worth going up to get them when you could fall back and let's say we get, who's the guy, Justin Jefferson? I've seen him
Yeah.
going to us a bunch. And when I watched the tape on the guy a couple of days ago, I was like, well, holy shit, this guy's pretty good. I mean, he's not going to get the 12th overall pick like a CD Lamb is going to, but if he fell to 22, I wouldn't be mad about it at all.
And I still really like T. Higgins at 25.
Oh, yeah. I like him as well. Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big old target. High
Yeah.
point the ball well. Fights every play to go get it.
I like Kirk throwing a 50-50 ball a lot. And if you got a big body guy that can do that, I mean, I'm all for it. I know
I
Thielen
loved
can run
watching the video of him just fighting guys off of him. It's so good.
I like that.
It reminds me of when we were watching the video last year on Alexander Madison and how he was just fighting. Every play, you just saw the hustle, you saw the determination.
We talked about it like 2 weeks after the draft. We're like, holy crap, this dude's a bowling ball. Hey, shout
Absolutely.
out to our former host on the show, and he's still our very good friend, Dorian Foley. So I got to, speaking of Alexander Madison, I saw him upload a photo, like we were talking earlier about the coronavirus. You know, it's kind of a dark time in history for this country and the world. Everybody's cooped up. He's like, hey, post something, you know, about football, because I miss football. And if you're a football fan, post a photo. And it was with Alexander Madison's dad. And I said, dude, is that Madison's dad? Because I did a little Facebook creeping on the profile, and it sure was. I knew it was. And I said, yeah, man, if he looks at this, tell him I said we're a big fan of him on the show, and he had a hell of a rookie year. And he said, thank you. So shout out to Alexander Madison. We love you on the Purple People podcast. I have a helmet signed by him for that guy right there, Adam Carlson, that I have to send to him. And I just thought that was really cool. That's a weird but cool little full circle story there. But yeah, Alexander Madison's dad said, what's up? So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Michael Cambria, what's up, dude? Sorry you got in late to the show because we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit, but glad you joined us. How is Dorian? Dorian's doing good, man. He's working the night shift life, if I've looked on Facebook correctly. He's always very entertaining on there. He makes me laugh a lot. And we were talking about wrestling earlier. If you want a wrestling take, that guy will give it to you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he and I don't agree on a lot of wrestling takes, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, we love Dorian, man. He's good, dude. He's good people.
Absolutely.
Oh, so what else can we talk about in Vikings rumor land? Because I'm just running out of topics here, Adam. And all I'm asking you to do is just carry the show a little bit because I don't know what else to talk about.
There really isn't a lot else left to talk about. Of course, we talked about Adam Schefter a little bit and how he had the idea to expand the draft to 1 day for each round and kind of like just pull it apart a little bit, give teams extra time to do a little bit more research while allowing the NFL to have more revenue. That idea was absolutely slammed by a lot of the media who just didn't want change. And personally, I kind of like it.
I'm not mad about it.
It won't happen, sadly. But what I did read is that the NFL has been reaching out to a lot of the top prospects in this year's draft. And the ones that agree, they're going to be sent packages, which I'm assuming are going to be draft caps from each team, so that when they're picked, they can be on their cam at home. And they can put on their draft caps. And I'm kind of looking forward to that because I didn't want the draft to be held off as much as I enjoy the live atmosphere and everything. There's no reason a draft can't be done this way with analysts at their homes, you know, just being able to not have the crowd behind them and with the pick not being made in front of a live audience. It's going to be different, but, you know, I think it's still going to be good.
It'll be weird. It'll be different from years past, but with the technology that we have, I mean, it's an obvious, yeah, we could do this. It's not, obviously this isn't ideal, but you just got to adapt and overcome. I think this is going to be fun. And Schefter talked about doing every day doing one round. I mean, we got nothing else going on. ESPN's releasing the Michael Jordan 30 for 30 or documentary or whatever early because there's nothing going on and people need sports of some sort.
ESPN was showing old WrestleManias too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a great way to have people tuning in because I'll watch every single round every night for that matter. I hope that they could do that. But there's not a lot left to talk about in Viking land. I'm looking at speculation of, you know, some of these articles like we talked about Cook. Is he going to get top dollar? We talked about Anthony Harris. All this is speculation and rumor. We're not going to go too far down the rabbit hole on a very small.
Bob Wells has a question for us in the chat about Mike Zimmer and his contract.
I heard rumors that they're going to work out an extension for him.
I don't see him going anywhere. And
I
I
don't
think
want him
that
to.
him not going anywhere is the right decision.
There are a lot of people in the comments section of Facebook that I absolutely loathe and personally hate, but they always want to come out and talk shit about Mike Zimmer. But I'm telling you guys, this is like leaving your faithful girlfriend who's really good to you for a one night stand, and you find out, man, the grass isn't always greener. This 30 minutes of fun I had last night is not good coming home to. Man, I got a home, I got well cooked meals, I got a family, and I went out for a night of being stupid. Don't get rid of Zimmer just yet. If he absolutely tanks, there's a good backup there and plan if Gary Kubiak wanted it to step up in a head coaching role, and I'd be cool with it. But I love everything about this guy, the attitude that he brings. I love the fact that he cares so much about the team, and he's left his mark, man. The defense is good. The defense is always good.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
want to
It'd
see
be
him
like
get over
cheating on
that
The
hump.
Office with Parks and Rec.
What's that?
It'd be like cheating on The Office with Parks and Rec. You just don't do
Thank
it.
you guys for coming to this week's show. We're going to end the show now. Adam Carlson is officially fired. He's always got to take shots at Parks and Rec while we're on here. Hey, let's take a look. This is a good take. Did you hear Pat McAfee's take on this year's draft? Just go to each team's war room with the GM or coach. Yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see where they can go with how good ESPN and NFL merge together. I want to see what kind of collaboration and ideas they can come up with, brainstorm, because we have nothing but time now. People are sitting at home and they got nothing to do but think up ideas of ways to be creative. And I think this is a great idea. There's a couple of different routes they can take. I like Adam's take on not Schefter, Carlson here on the Purple People podcast. I think that they could send reporters to some of the top picks house, like Tua. Send somebody like Diana Rossini down there. This is going to be so crazy if, let's say, Miami has to trade up or another team trades for him, blah, 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 blah. You can have one person there. Take out to one of the star wide receivers and go. Pick a couple of groups and just go along with it because I don't know. They could go so many directions with this, but I like where your head's at, Sergio. I think that's a great idea.
Now, what I am going to miss is that one player that doesn't get picked and keeps sliding, sitting at his table sad.
Whew. I got mad the other day because I watched Draft Day. I love that stupid, terrible movie so much, but you see the guys that fall like Aaron Rodgers did, and I love when they pan to them and they have to like paint their face on like they're, trying out for American Idol and they're holding back the tears because they're so angry and mad. I feel bad for them because, they thought they were going to get picked higher, but oh, man, that's
the big question mark for me in this draft is Love. I don't know where Love's going to go.
Yeah, I've heard him going as high as 6 and then falling all the way to the Patriots in between our picks. So that's really weird.
I've heard him fall into the middle of the second.
True. What's up, Sean? We're about to be done, but I'm glad you decided to tune in. Bob Wells and Andrew Latola said that they agree with the Zimmer take, and with Zimmer's record, you do not get rid of him. Dude, I know. Right. Especially, you have the Blair Walsh year, and then you have the horrible Eagles NFC Championship game, but the guy's won a couple of playoff games, and he's getting you in contention with the division championship every year. I mean, and part of it too, I hate to say this, just to have like a little bit more of a hot and extra take on this. Zimmer can coach pretty damn good. He coaches good about 80% of the time. He puts up a pretty good game plan. I can't account for Blair Walsh fucking up a field goal. That's not Mike Zimmer's fault.
And also, Zimmer's had to deal with seasons where his star players just get injured and miss the rest of the season, and
he almost loses an eye.
Go with what he's got, and he genuinely seems to give everything he's got for his football team while season's going on, and heck, probably even when it's not going on. He's probably sitting at home right now, sitting there with a notepad in his hand, drawing up plays. That's what he does.
He's got Minnesota written all over him. I think that he brings the attitude and the toughness of up there in the north, like you guys would want. And I love the guy. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that's good too. Andrew, I agree with you there.
I also don't see Rick Spielman going anywhere. I know that's kind of been something that a lot of people tend to pick on because he missed on quite a few first round draft picks, and that'll happen. But then you look at the second round and you see all the hits that he had there, and you take a look at some of the deeper picks and the hits that he's had there, and yeah, he could use a little bit more help from his scouting department, it sounds like, but Maybe it's time to
Also,
get a few more scouts.
also with not only the draft, think about the free agent pickups he's got. They took a shot on Anthony Harris. He's phenomenal. Adam Thielen is one of the best stories I've ever heard in football, period, just where he's at now, especially in the current age. Think about Linval Joseph, free agent
He was
signing.
a great rental, yeah.
Look at the guy that just replaced for Linval Joseph. He looks to be awesome, yet to be seen. But I would say, at least for Rick Spielman's side, if we're putting a number to it, he's 60-40 on good versus bad. There are some bad whiffs, the Christian Ponders and the Laquan Treadwells, but there's also the Eric Kendricks of the world, the Dalvin Cooks that fell to the second round, those free agents I mentioned. I like Spielman a lot too, so I think if they're both going into a contract year, I don't see why they both wouldn't get a look, because I don't know. I heard that on Twitter. I don't know how accurate it is, at least for the Zimmer part. But if Zimmer's going to get an extension, I think Slick Rick's going to stay in place too. They work well together. Those guys work very well together.
But that's just about all I've got for this week. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just hope everyone stays safe. I'm glad everybody joined us in the chat. Just ride this thing out. Stay at home if you can. If you have to go out, take a little extra precautionary measures. I had to get gas today. I have some sanitary wipes that I grabbed the pump with. And if you're going in any public places like the grocery store or anywhere else, don't grab the handle with your bare hand. Wash your hands and all that fun stuff. Be safe out there, guys. We can flatten the curve and we can beat this. Just got to be patient.
WWE Network's free right now. You can go check that out.
Ooh.
If you got Netflix, there's a lot of cool things going on there. Some people are talking about some lion thing. I don't know. And then there's The Circle, which is like your fun reality show stuff, which is good. And there's so much going on. Sit with your family and enjoy a good show. If you don't have your family around you, sit around in your underwear, watch some TV while you snack. I mean, don't get much better than that.
I've consumed so much Netflix in the last week. It's unhealthy. I did have a suggestion for you, and if you guys are into weird horrors and thrillers, the Netflix has a special I watched last night called The Platform. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
You should check that out. I think you'd like it. It's very weird. Very, very weird. Yeah.
Right now, I've just been going through my Hulu, and I'm making my way through Scrubs again, which I haven't watched Scrubs since it first came out, and doesn't hold up too well.
Yeah, I think it was good for that time and era. A little cheesy for me, though.
Yeah, it was better the first time through.
We grew out of the Scrubs phase.
But I do want to thank again everyone who joined us in the chat. And if you would, the Viking Age is always there for you. You can download the app. You can just go to the website, check that out. There's also undeadwalking.com where you can check out anything to do with zombies. Of course, Sunday will be the last episode of The Walking Dead for a little while. There's got to be a little break because post-production was not done on the final episode of the series. So there's going to be a couple weeks break. Then they're going to come back with the big finale. And from what I understand, that finale is going to be a big one. So you're not going to want to miss that. Also, The Walking Dead World Beyond also had to take a nice little break too. So they won't be starting up until after the actual finale of The Walking Dead. So there's going to be a little break of zombies there, but it's okay. There's always stuff to watch on Netflix and whatnot. So you can go watch some old episodes of The Walking Dead on Netflix. So that's pretty good. Phantasm Digital, you can check out the art of Mr. West. You can buy yourself a Purple People Podcast coffee mug, and you can show it to us, and we'd love that. And also, when things calm down a little bit, well, we kind of have a project for some of our listeners that live in the Minneapolis area. We still want you guys to go out to that Viking ship and find our brick. Take a picture of our brick among the ship, and it could be a lot of fun because we have yet to see it on the ship, but we know it's out there.
If you guys could go out to US Bank Stadium and find this, and bonus points, not only if you take a photo, but we did this for like the memorials for all the soldiers that have died and people that I know, like distant family members and whatnot. Take a piece of paper, if you can scratch that out and find that and send that to one of us. We did a giveaway for the Survival League. If you guys do that and you can send pictures to us, I will send you whatever you would like from this Phantasm Digital page on our YouTube and Facebook page here. If you go to facebook.com/The Purple People Podcast and find pinned at the top the Phantasm Digital post. If you can get us a picture of that and tell us where it is exactly, like, hey, it's on the back side, the left corner, or whatever, I will personally hook you up with whatever Purple People podcast stuff that you want, like a shirt or a hoodie. Or if you're like, I don't want something with your guys' stuff on it, I want to get Hulk Hogan's face on a shower curtain, I'll pay for it. I want to see this happen because this means a lot to Adam, and I got the legacy brick right here, and it stays right here when we do all these shows. So that would be super cool if you guys could do that for us.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of sad I don't live in that area anymore to do it, but yeah, I didn't get that done while I was living down there, so that makes me kind of sad. But what makes me happy is when people interact with us, and we had a great following during this show. Thank you to everyone who hopped in the chat and joined in the conversation, asked questions. Even if you didn't ask questions, it's awesome to have you here, and hopefully you'll like, share, subscribe, and help the community grow. On that note, I do want to thank everyone once again and say, stay classy, Minnesota.